Today I'm going to be talking about the Hillside Stranglers. Now, Kenneth Bianchi, he was adopted, and his adopted mom, people would say she was really overprotective of Kenny. She was always worried that he was going to get bladder infections for whatever reason. And so people would say she was a lot sometimes. And as Kenny got a little older in his early teenage years, his father ended up passing away. And his mom made him wear his dad's shoes that were really big on him. And apparently, that was a symbol of Kenny being the man of the house since his father had passed on. As Kenny got older, he wanted to be a police officer. And so, to start out, he started working at a desk as like a security guard. And he would get to go on ride alongs with the police. Well, when he ended up, he wanted to move to get a fresh start. His mom got in contact with her sister so he could move in with his cousin, Angelo Buono. And I may be saying his last name wrong. I'm trying to pronounce it right. But she got in contact with her sister so he could move in with his cousin Angelo. And Angelo was not the greatest guy. He had kids that he hadn't been raising. He was very abusive to the mom, and he had two women that had his kids. One had just one of his kids, and she left earlier on. And his second marriage, she stayed around for a while, and he was really abusive to her, and he would do things. And finally, she had had enough, and she had left. So Kenneth ends up moving in with Angelo. And they get this great idea that they're going to end up being pimps. So they find these two girls who they're horrible to. And the girls had had enough, so they ended up getting away. And so they become angry, and this is where they would get their first victim. She was only 19, and she was a mother, and she was really pretty. She was trying to, make money for her kid. And they ended up abducting and killing her. And then, not no time after, they would abduct a 15-year-old. And they would tie her up. And they would often strangle their victims, but sometimes they would use other methods. And their third victim, she was a dancer, and she had moved so that she could become a dancer. They seen her and they pretended to be police officers and they abducted her. They tied her up like they did with all their victims, and they would strangle her. The next would be their youngest victims. One was 12 and one was 14. They were just at a shopping mall, and when they seen them, they pretended to be police again, and they abducted both of them. And it's sad because one had to watch the other one die, and both their bodies would be found. But they were getting away with it because there wasn't much to go on at the time. So their next victim would be someone that Kenny knew really well. She was someone that lived close to him, and he liked her, but she didn't feel the same, because I think she would write in her diary a little bit about him, and I feel like she kind of felt like something was off with him. And honestly, I don't think she ever would have went with him. But he told her that he was a police officer and that her car had been broken into. And so that is the reason that she went. And what they did to her was really horrible. So I'm not going to go into every detail, but it was sad. And the detective on the case actually kept her diary and would say she was very talented. She loved to write. She was a talented girl and could have went far. So after, it still wouldn't be long, they would get their next victim. And their next victim, she was close to her house. Like, literally, she was so close to her parents' house. And they followed her home and they told her they were police. But someone who witnesses said she fought them, and she was telling them, hey, let me go get my dad. And they wouldn't let her, and they grabbed her and they abducted her. And her body would be found the next day. So the next, she was, from my understanding, they called her a call girl. So Kenny called and she went to where she was told. And as soon as she went in the house, they started attacking her. And they would take her life too. So after this, Kenny did a ride along with the police. And Angelo started to feel like Kenny was getting too comfortable. So he told him he needed to leave or he was going to kill him. So Kenny left, and Kenny had a kid of his own and a girlfriend. So without Angelo, Kenny still doesn't stop. He tells these two young women who are roommates that he needs them to house sit for him. So they come over, and he gets the first one to go with him, and he kills her quick so the other one doesn't know. And then he does the same to the other young woman. But this time, though, they knew that Kenny was the security guard that wanted them to come over. So they arrest him. And then they find evidence. They find jewelry and stuff. And so Kenny at first is pretending like he's got multiple personalities, but they're not buying it. So they bring Angelo in. And at first they're afraid that Angelo is going to get away with it. But luckily he doesn't. He is sentenced to life without parole. And Kenny is sentenced to life. Well, in prison, Kenny meets this woman who's a book writer. And he basically tells her, hey, if you love me, you will go and you will kill a woman, and so they won't think that I was the killer, and basically he could end up getting out of prison. But the girl that she attacks survives, and so it doesn't work out. She ends up getting arrested, and Kenny still stays in prison. So that is the story. Thank you guys for watching.